They say time is a river. But after 72 years behind this workbench, in this very chair that has molded itself to my spine, I know better. Time is not a river. It is a predator. It doesn't flow past you. It consumes you 1 second, 1 heartbeat at a time. Look around this room. What do you see? Just old clocks? Wooden boxes? To a stranger, it's a shop. To me, it's a sanctuary of dust and echoes. Every tick you hear, and there are thousands of them, if you listen closely, is a ghost. It's a memory someone traded for a later that never arrived. A journey that never took place. A sorry that was never spoken. My workshop is a graveyard of intentions. I sit here, surrounded by these brass hearts and steel lungs, and late at night, when the city outside goes silent, I can almost hear them breathing. My name is Elias. For half a century, I've been a watchmaker in a world that's forgotten the dignity of waiting. My hands. Look at them. They're mapped with wrinkles like old parchment, stained with oil that has become part of my skin. My eyes have grown dim, worn out from staring into the microscopic abyss of gears, seeking the soul of the machine. But I don't just see wheels and springs. I see the lifeblood of humanity. I see the moments people traded for a paycheck they didn't need, or a title that didn't matter. I see the years that gambled away on the word someday. Someday is the most dangerous word in the English language. Just yesterday, a man walked in. He was wrapped in an aura of expensive cologne and frantic energy. He handed me a gold Watchmaker that cost more than this building that had stopped in the dead of winter, back in '94. He wanted it restored for a gala. I looked him in the eye and told him I could make the hands move again. But I couldn't give him back the 30 years he spent ignoring the people who loved him. A watchmaker can fix the tick, my friend, but only you can fix the why. Let's go back. Let's drift through the fog of memory to 1972. The world was a different color then. It felt heavier, more real. Time was measured in the steady, rhythmic pulse of an escapement, not in the frantic, jittery clicks of a digital screen. My father's workshop, this very space, though the walls were darker than, smelled of things that don't exist anymore. It smelled of cedarwood shavings, stale pipe tobacco, and that sharp, metallic tang of watch oil that gets into your lungs and stays there. I remember him sitting right where I am now, under the warm yellow glow of an incandescent bulb that hummed softly in the corner. He used to hold a balance, wheel a piece of metal so tiny it looked like the heartbeat of a ladybug. And he would talk to it. And he'd say, "Elias, pay attention. A watch isn't just a tool to tell you when to eat or when to sleep. It's a contract. It's a sacred agreement between a human being and the stars." He believed that as long as her watch was ticking, you were still part of the great mystery. In the early 70s, we didn't have notifications. We didn't have devices in our pockets screaming for our attention every 3 minutes. We had focus. We had the ability to sit in a chair and watch the sun move across the floorboards. I remember my first real customer. A boy, really. Barely 20, with calloused hands and the soot of the steel mill still etched into his knuckles. He had saved every spare cent for 2 long years. He didn't spend it on beer or fast cars. He wanted a silver Hamilton. I asked him why. I'll never forget his face. He looked at me with a gravity that belonged to an older man and said, "Because I'm getting married in June, and I want to hear the seconds of my life with her. I want something that won't break when the world gets hard." I spent 3 full days regulating that watch. I treated it like it was the crown jewels. When I finally handed it over, he didn't just check the time. He put it to his ear. He stood there, in total, holy silence, for 5 minutes, just listening to the heartbeat of his future. In 1972, we didn't just consume time, we honored it. We treated it like a rare wine, to be sipped, not gulped down in a rush. But then the world started to speed up. It wasn't a gradual change. I felt like a sudden cold wind blowing through an open door. The quartz crisis hit the industry like a winter that refused to end. Suddenly, the heartbeat, that beautiful mechanical soul, was being replaced by a battery, a silicon chip that didn't know how to bleed or feel. I watched people walk past my shop window, their eyes glued to these new plastic gadgets. They stopped caring about the pulse of a watch. They just wanted the numbers to be perfect. They wanted disposable. It was during those years, in the heart of the 90s, that the businessman I told you about came in. I can still see him. He smelled of high-stakes stress and a cologne that cost more than my first car. He was wearing a suit that was tailored to perfection, and on his wrist sat a gold Rolex, a Submariner, a true masterpiece of engineering. But when he slid it across my velvet pad, my heart sank. It was caked in layers of grime, sweat, and neglect. It had stopped ticking months ago, and he hadn't even noticed until someone pointed it out. He looked at me with eyes that were as hollow as a drum and said, "Elias, don't worry about the movement. Just polish the gold. Make it shine. I don't care if it works. I just need people to see it when I shake their hands." I felt a sharp pain in my chest that day. It wasn't my heart failing. It was my soul aching for him. We'd reached a summit of vanity where the appearance of time was more valuable than the living of it. I asked him, "Sir, when was the last time you used this watch to wait for something that didn't have a price tag? A sunset? A child's first laugh?" He didn't even hear me. He was already looking at his phone, checking a notification. He said he was late. Always late. It's funny, isn't it? We have 1,000 devices to tell us the time, yet we have never been more out of time than we are now. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you something. If you're still here, listening to an old man's ramblings, perhaps you're one of the few who still values the slow, steady tick of a real life. If you find peace in these stories, please subscribe. It helps keep the lights on in this old workshop. Now, where was I? The people often ask me, usually with a bit of a smirk, what the most expensive watch I've ever had on this bench was. They expect a story about a billionaire's Patek or a diamond-encrusted Vacheron found in a sunken ship, but they're looking at the wrong currency. The most expensive watches I've ever held didn't cost a single dime. I remember a woman who came in last spring. The air was still crisp and the cherry blossoms were just starting to lose their petals. She was fragile, like a piece of vintage lace that had been folded in a drawer for too long. She reached into a bag with trembling fingers and handed me a tiny silver lady's watch. It was a mess. The crystal was cracked into a spiderweb of lines, the silver was black with tarnish. And the leather strap was so dry it crumbled at my touch. She told me it belonged to her mother, who had passed away 30 years ago in a house that smelled of cinnamon and old books. She didn't want it to look new. In fact, she begged me not to polish it. She said, "Elias, I want the scratches. Those scratches are the years she spent gardening. Those marks are the times she bumped her wrist against the stove." All she wanted, all she truly craved, was to hear it tick again. Just once. She told me that sound, that specific tick, tick. It was the background music of my entire childhood. If I can hear it one more time, I'll know she's still with me. I'll know that time hasn't truly taken her away. My hands, usually so steady, were shaking as I opened that case. It wasn't a repair job. It was a resurrection. I spent 2 nights under the lamp, cleaning gears that were no bigger than a grain of sand, And when I finally got that tiny balance wheel to catch the light, soften that first hesitant tick echoed in the shop. I saw her shoulders drop. She didn't say a word. She just closed her eyes, and the tears carved past through the dust on her cheeks. In that moment, the entire modern world, the internet, the noise, the digital chaos, it all vanished. There was only that one tiny silver heartbeat, and I realized, I am not just a watchmaker. I am a guardian of ghosts. So, here we are. The sun is setting over the city and the shadows in my shop are getting long. Why am I telling you all this? I'm just an old man in a room full of ticking ghosts. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what you needed to hear today. I want you to do something for me. Stop, just for a second. Look at your own wrist, or look at the clock on the wall. Those numbers, they aren't just digits. They are the cooling embers of your life. Every second that passes is a second you will never see again. There isn't a watchmaker in this world, not even one with 70 years of experience who can buy back a single yesterday for you. We spend so much of our existence killing time. We treat it like an enemy we have to defeat. We wait for the weekend. We wait for the holiday. We wait for the promotion, the retirement, the someday when life is finally supposed to begin. But let me tell you a secret. Someday is a thief. It's a phantom that steals your now and leaves you with nothing but a drawer full of rusted memories. My advice? Stop just checking the time. Start living it. Call that person you've been avoiding because you're too busy. Take the long way home and look at the trees. Listen to the silence, because one day, the ticking will stop. The mainspring will reach the end of its tension. And in that final silence, you won't care about the gold on your wrist or the followers on your screen. You will only care about the heartbeats you shared, the moments where time stood still because you were truly, deeply happy. If this story meant something to you, share this with someone who needs to slow down. Thank you for spending your precious minutes with me. It's the greatest gift you could give. Now, go. You're burning daylight, and daylight, and daylight. Well, that's the one thing I can't fix. Goodbye for now.